And we always start with a few bags to give out to people who are new. I knew you were here at Easter, but a little bag for Peter here. Lovely to have you with us. Anybody else deserving of a bag? No, I don't think there is. So anyway, round of applause for Peter. Thank you very much for coming. And I always say there is chocolate in it, Peter, so it is worth looking in there. So I'll just hand over to Heather.
Hi, everyone. Isn't it interesting how every week it's a different vibe in here, depending on who's here and that whatever? I think that's interesting to feel into the particularity of this morning that's never existed before and will never exist again. So I want to just invite us to feel more into that. And if it's helpful to close your eyes or whatever, look at the beautiful room and wherever you are, maybe online watching, just feel into your particularity, your life, your one wild, precious life, as Mary Oliver put it. Feel into the beauty and ampleness of this moment right now. How completely replete it is. And just notice what's going on in your mind and in your heart and in your body. All that's swirling around in you, all your preoccupations, your concerns, your sadnesses, your joys, all the resolved things in your life and all the unresolved things. And with a deep down knowing that it's all okay. It's more than okay. So let's go into this service today with a kind of quiet, open, attentive disposition. Generous, alive, awake to all that's possible. Where our pasts and our futures are all swept up into this present moment. Feeling into our place in history, our unique contribution to, the whole evolution of things. That here we are as a community in this place and time doing our little bit and aspiring to live our best lives. So with all of that, use these following words if they're helpful to you. Almighty and wonderful God, to whom all hearts are open, all desires known, and from whom no secrets are hidden. Cleanse the thoughts of our hearts by the inspiration of your Holy Spirit, that we may perfectly love you and worthily magnify your holy name. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. And so, out of that amazing silence and beauty in here, over to John Woolley. It's really great to have you. Thanks.
Thank you, John. I just want to start by celebrating Ward and Mimi, whose 45th wedding anniversary it is this coming Saturday, and we won't have a chance to celebrate it next week. But Ward and Mimi have made such a contribution to our church. Ward as well looks very much more relieved as he's come off the council. But I just want to celebrate both of them and say what a great contribution they make to our chapel and have done all these years. And many congratulations on 45 years of marriage. That's Ward and Mimi. Thank you. There we are. So, we're doing a little series at the moment on the whole subject of connecting with reality. This is the third week. And in the first week, we looked at the whole idea about seeing both the dangers we face in our society at the moment and the fears of barreling towards those dangers, and also looking at what we might achieve if we did work together. I read a passage from the book Abundance, just with a view of what could happen if we all began to work together in this world. And then last week I spoke about the need to connect in the present moment, because it's really only in the present moment that we connect with the wisdom that's all around us, with other people, in the universe. By being present, we connect with all of that. And today I want to talk about the idea of showing up, because that's the one thing really we have to do in life in order to make an impact. We actually have to show up. Mother Teresa famously said, "Show up and things will happen." Show up and things will happen. And the trouble is, as we talked about last week, a lot of the time we don't show up. We're not present. We think, in our minds, we hide, we worry, we do anything but actually just stay with what's going on in the present moment. Now, I was checking to Matthew Fox. We're doing the recordings at the moment for those people who aren't able to actually come to the forum. And I was talking to Matthew Fox and his assistant last week as we were organising the forum. And he said he's noticed that, to begin at the beginning of the year, people were sort of fairly, wanting to do something and all that sort of business. And he's noticed it sort of trailing off. That people aren't showing up to events and things. Now, to some extent, I've noticed it in myself, at the sort of numbing to what's going on at the moment. A sort of feeling of there's an ennui about everything. And I think we just have to be aware of that. And a number of the speakers have noticed this going on at the moment. People really going into their shells at the moment and becoming quiet. And I think that's something to be aware of. We have to be willing not only to show up in our lives, but also to do what's prompted by the divine within, to actually respond to the promptings of the divine. I found this little passage from the Bhagavad Gita last week, which really is about, doing your duty, acting, doing what's necessary. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. Content with his natural duty, each one of us achieves success. Listen now, I will tell you how success can be found. A man finds success by worshipping with his own right actions the one from whom all actions arise and by whom the world is pervaded. So a man finds success by worshipping, that's giving worth to, with his own right actions, the one for whom all actions arise and by whom the world is pervaded. It is better to do your duty badly than to perfectly do another's duty. When you do your duty, you're naturally free from sin. No one should relinquish his duty, even though it's flawed. All actions are enveloped by flaws as fire is enveloped by smoke. Self-mastered, with mind unattached at all times, beyond desire, one attains through renunciation the supreme freedom of action. And it's really talking about being free to show up and to act. And when you do that, it is a form of worship. Worship actually means giving worth to. And when you show up prompted by the heart, you give worth to that which is prompting you. That's what it means to show up in life and to act when we're called upon by life, even when it feels flawed. And sometimes it does. Sometimes you think, well, this doesn't feel right. Because, as it says, all actions are enveloped by flaws as far as is enveloped by smoke. Do you know, each one of us here has been on a long journey in life to get to this very place right now. Yeah, I've said this before, but all of us, if you think, if this was the moment when everything was going to happen, all our lives have shown up, have done for us all to come to this moment. And to show up here fully, we have to let go of all those things that have held us back in the past. It says in that passage, with the mind unattached at all times, beyond desire. We have to let go of everything. To let go of the thoughts that we know the way things ought to be. We've got an idea in our mind of the way things ought to be. We've got to let go about what we expect things to be like in life. And a lot of the ennui is because we just can't get our heads around it. It's just not going the way we thought it was going to go in our lives at the moment. Thoughts about how all this compares with the past. All these are ways that stop us from showing up and from acting. It's I think it's no coincidence that, in Genesis, Adam and Eve were told to eat of everything else but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's the one tree they weren't allowed to eat of, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that's because when you eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you lose your ability to stay in the present moment because you start working out what is good, what is evil, what should I be doing? And then they realized they were naked and they hid themselves from God. And most of the time we do that. When we go into our thoughts, we realize we are naked, that we are of no worth or whatever, and then we hide ourselves from God. We have to let go of the way we think things should be or ought to be, and instead discover what that divine has in store for us and show up to that. I don't know what'll happen, nor do you. But we soon will as it unfolds. And if we're looking for something else, something that we think should be happening or should be there, then that's when we miss it and start to go quiet. We miss what we're being led to do because we're not showing up, because we're looking in another direction. We're looking over there when actually we're being asked to show up over here. We have to show up in our lives. That is, to enter into the present moment that we were talking about last week, and then to be willing to get involved, to act, to be in the room while it's happening. Because this is a state of shared consciousness. We're in a state of shared consciousness. All of us share that great I am, the great unity of consciousness, the divine consciousness. We share that within ourselves. I am in the Father. It's what Jesus said. I am in the Father. I'm in that great consciousness. You are in me. You exist in my reality. I exist in your reality. So we share that consciousness together. A state of shared consciousness with the divine. And that's what leads to all truth, the recognition of that. As it says in that great reading from the Tao, without opening the door, you can open your heart to the world. That's without trying to work out what's going on. Without opening the door, you can open your heart to the world. Without looking out of your window, without making judgments, you can see the essence of the Tao. The more you know, the less you understand. The master arrives without leaving, sees the light without looking, and achieves without doing a thing. We're so busy to achieve. We try to work it all out rather than waiting for that moment, waiting till the mud settles and right action arises by itself. We don't have to engineer things for each of us to be in the right place at the right time. Because, little secret in life, we are always at the right place at the right time, because that's the way life works. We're always in the right place, you're right now in the right place at the right time. We just have to realize it. We're looking for the moment. When's it going to come? When's my moment? When's my cue to come on stage? No, we're already on stage. We have to realize it, be with whatever is going on, and then act. And that takes us having the confidence in that universal order that we share. I mean, that's what the whole aspect of, when people talk about faith and all that sort of stuff, it is having the confidence that we do exist within a universal order. And we are part of that universe. And we can connect with that universal order. And not making judgments about the state of the way things are. Again, Jesus said, we have to become like little children and grasp the opportunities without judgment. The only people who can enter the kingdom of heaven, in other words, the present moment, the only people who can are little children, because they're not making any judgments. And you see in their faces, they're just there. By meeting triumph and disaster, and treat those two great imposters just the same. Last week I read Rudyard Kipling's poem, If, and that comes from that. Meeting the triumph and disaster, those two great imposters, and treating them the same. So the first step in the act of showing up is a decision to be present, to let go. And the second step is to be open to the promptings of the heart, to be open to that still small voice that comes to us in the silence of the present moment. It comes to us if we're listening to it in the silence of the present moment. And the third step is to act on those promptings. Those are the three steps. When we started off with it, this webinar and all this, I thought, this is mad. Why am I reaching out to sort of Marianne Williamson and Tim Schreier, to come and invite them to do stuff, And so then by that, after the webinar, I'd sort of decided that we were going to do the forum. And by the time I started doing the forum, I thought, why am I doing this? And my grandfather used to, I probably told you this, my grandfather used to, when we had parties, he'd be hoovering downstairs, and suddenly you hear the shout from downstairs, why do you invite these ruddy people anyway? You have that feeling of, why have I done this? And you do it when you're prompted, and then you see it through. And then you see it through. We have to have that willingness to see it through. And we have to have the empathy that connects us to the reality that's right in front of us. When we hear the voice, we have to stay connected to both the present moment and everyone connected in that moment that we're a part of. And that takes both empathy and compassion. And it's our empathy and compassion that enables us to show up and act with other people. We also have to have the humility to take whatever reaction we get, be it triumph or disaster, and to accept the outcome. And a lot of the times, we're not willing to do that. Do all your work and then no one shows up. And you think, well, that's just it. You have to just, and you communicate to someone and they come back with a bad reaction. You just have to be with that. You can't control what the outcome is. Again, from the Tao Te Ching, from the Bhagavad Gita. Self-mastered, with mind unattached at all times, not attached to the result. Beyond desire for success or failure, one attains through renunciation, the letting go, the supreme freedom from action. That is the supreme freedom to act and not worry. And then what you have to do is you have to remain in the present moment and listen for the voice again. You do something and, it's a total failure. And you just want to run off and hide. Or it's a great success and you just want to run off and take all the glory. You have to stay open. That's why triumph and failure, two great imposters. You have to stay with what is going on. You have to show up and stay with the experience, continually showing up and arriving as events unfold in front of us. It is not just a one-off thing. It's a continuum. That's what it means when we say finding success by worshipping with our own right actions. We worship the one from whom all actions arise and by whom the world is pervaded. That means that when things are happening, we're not focusing on the things happening. We're not focusing on the circumstances as they roll towards us continually. We're focusing on what is the still small voice saying. You're focusing on that still small voice that is not worried about what the response is going to be to it, but you're staying connected to that still small voice. To remain present, to listen for the voice again, and to stay connected. It's by being continually connected to the one from whom all actions arise, and then our reactions become a form of worship. Our actions become a form of worship, of giving worth to that one nature, to our heart, giving worth to our heart rather than our minds. Showing up is a conscious, continuous state of mind that is in continual relationship with the source as we navigate the circumstances that come our way. It is a continuum. Be whichever of those two imposters, triumph or disaster, appear. It says in the Tao Te Ching, success is as dangerous as failure. Hope is as hollow as fear. What does it mean success is as dangerous as failure? Whether you go up the ladder or down it, your position is shaky. When you stand with 2 feet on the ground, you will always keep your balance. What does it mean that hope is as hollow as fear? Hope and fear are both phantoms that arise from thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, what do we have to fear? See all the world as yourself. Have faith in the way things are. Love the world as you love yourself. Then you can care for all things. It's staying connected, staying in the realization that we're all in this together. And it's to that source that we have to remain connected. It's not the circumstances that are important, it's how we respond to them. And to respond from the heart rather than the mind, we have to be connected in our hearts to that Creator. Showing up is a continual loving response with life that makes no judgments, but always has us, as James Finley says, doing what is most loving given the circumstances. That's what we're doing. We're doing what is most loving. And the only way we can work that out is by the promptings of our heart, given the circumstances. It necessitates us living. Susan Aposhin, who's coming next week, has written a book called Heart Open, Body Awake. And if I was going to have this whole sort of talk in 4-5 words, that's what it would be. Heart open, body awake. That's how we respond. Hopefully you'll go into that a bit more next time. Your heart has to be open to what's happening and your body awake in its empathy and compassion. In this way, we navigate our way through life, exemplifying those words. Heather used the words from the Collect of Purity. Cleanse the thoughts of my heart. Cleanse the thought of my heart. It's our hearts. Cleanse the thoughts of our hearts by the inspiration of your Holy Spirit. In other words, being connected. That I may perfectly love you. That I may allow a love of whatever circumstances comes my way. I may perfectly love you and worthily magnify your holy name. Which means that I may express, worthily magnify, that I may be an amplification of that divine nature that's within us from the Collect for Purity. As Thomas Merton says, God utters me like a word containing a partial thought of himself. A word will never be able to comprehend the voice that utters it. But if I'm true to the concept that God utters in me, if I'm true to the thought of him that I was meant to embody, I shall be full of his actuality and find him everywhere in myself and find myself, that's the small self, nowhere. I shall be lost in him. That is, I shall find myself, my true self. I shall be saved. Now, the word saved's got a bad press, particularly with the evangelical. Are you saved? But it just means it's a place of safety. That's what it means. That's true salvation, a place of safety where we are lost in relationship with the divine. And of course, again, what James Finley says of the divine, it's always the scary one. And it's true, because we know it's true in our lives that the divine protects us from nothing, but sustains us in all things. I think that's so great. I mean, I can feel the truth of that, It protects us from nothing. And we know that, Bus is going to hit me as anybody else, and we're all going to get the diagnosis, whatever it is. Protects us from nothing, but sustains us in all things. We're sustained in all things, and that is the true place of safety. Salvation is being able to be sustained in all things. I'm on the last paragraph, so you can be sustained as you listen to what I'm saying. Whatever happens, we find the divine all around us. And that takes us through. Showing up is simply being present to the divine. It is actually, it's actually what everybody really wants. It's really what everybody really wants. But they chase after everything else because no one has shown them that that's where it actually is. Knowing this is to find the answer to the meaning of life. So, we always have an opportunity to communicate, to have a conversation, come back at anything that I've said or Heather said, and make a contribution, share an experience. Or we can just be in the silence of the present moment, see what the promptings of your heart tells you at this moment. Thank you, Bill. Yes, we have to have the microphone, I'm afraid, because no one online will be able to hear what you're saying otherwise. And that's great.
Well, excuse me, I really liked your sermon this morning, but it reminded me of an expression that may be a little draconian. It's been around for a long time, but it is that evil can only exist when good people say nothing. Sort of akin to showing up.
Yes, that is absolutely, yes. Thank you very much for that, Bill. Yeah, that's great. Yes, Leslie. Let's have Leslie. Nice to see you, Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned, I think the things that stood out from you was the still...
Is your microphone on, Leslie?
It is on.
It is.
It is on.
I can't quite hear. Do you want me to turn Leslie up a bit? That's great.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm mumbling.
That's it, fine. Carry on, Liz, that's great.
But the still small voice and the heart.
Yeah,
And also, just do it.
yes.
Kind of, all you have to do is just this. And I was experiencing my own mind going, oh, just do it.
Yeah.
And I feel fortunate in my life that I feel like that still small voice has spoken to me. And that when it first did, it was like I could either listen to this or just go on with what I'm doing, because it didn't fit with the way the world is.
Yes.
And then the heart. I remember I sat down and said, what is the heart? What is this heart thing that everybody's talking about? And I mean, right in that moment, this voice said, I am the heart. And it talked to me about itself. And I wish I had the poem with me, because it turned into a poem, but it was, I don't need to be protected. You cannot let me speak or whatever. It's kind of like, just let me speak. And then it goes into, how do I do that? And the next thing I know, I'm speaking it. I'm scared, but it's like, what happens is I get kind of antsy.
Yes.
And then it just wants to speak, and it comes out, And then I was thinking, wow, wouldn't it be great to have a whole course on the still small voice, because it's so easy to be in the way of your capital self,
Yes.
capital S self. And I wrote a poem yesterday, and it's just very short.
Yes.
But it's one of those things that I just had finished meditating. And I'm a little nervous, but I just had it. I'm not a little nervous, I'm very nervous. Can you hold on a sec?
Yes, we can hold on.
But that's not going to stop me. Okay, here we go. There is a place called everywhere, where all is well in the face of what arises. Find it, rest in it, move from it, be that everywhere place. Remember, you are that. Share that.
That's lovely, Leslie. So appreciate you sharing that. I mean, exactly what we're talking about here. And I really appreciate you taking the risk to share that.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, Tom.
If you were to ask my two kids what was one lesson that they remember from their childhood, it was showing up, actually. And listening to you, it's clear that there's a universality to that, because showing up can be in so many different contexts. Showing up to do exercise and be well, and eat properly, to listen, to engage, to connect. And so showing up has a universality to it, whether you're a little kid or a big kid. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tom.
I think I would like to share a thing. I had just these last couple of weeks, just such an amazing experience of this, of what Nicholas has been talking about, and it was simply a moment where my heart just knew what to do. It was like an impulse, and it was about going to see someone in my family. And I just knew it had to go. Boom. It's like totally illogical. It was a complete heart moving out. Like I'm just trying to get into like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There was no question about it. It was just a impulse that took all of me. And then, I had that. And then in the following days, this is just what I think what happens is then my mind kicked in and I doubted it, and I came up with all the reasons why this was not a good idea. And, everything, like the way that my mind just made excuses and thought of, finances and all the different things. And it's just been such an interesting process to really, like what you said, Leslie, was just so great. you know, it's such an interesting process to try and really listen and to stay close to your deepest, truest experience. And it's so unique. We all feel this so differently. But I made my decision, boom, done. And I just know it's an example of right action in terms of the Enneagram, or, you know, right action. And it feels so good. And it's like, it's just being aligned and learning to listen. I've been so enjoying the process of trying to discern right action these last couple of weeks. And then I read Nicholas's sermon this morning, you know, before just now, and I thought, that's it, this is it. And it's just life is so fun when you approach it this way.
So when you all say, where's Heather in 2 weeks' time? She's in England because she's done that. And you're going for 2 weeks, aren't you?
I'm actually gonna miss 3 Sundays, I figured.
3 Sundays, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, when people say, where is she? She was responding to her heart, which is, get out of here. No, she was visiting somebody who's not well. That's great. Thank you. I really appreciate you mentioning that. Good. Yes, Tracy, fantastic.
Well, it's funny because I listened to you and how you struggled, you know, with this decision. And I think, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, should I show up? Oh, what about this? What about that? Oh, that would be really fun. That would be really horrible. And it's exhausting, you know. And so I think you can just get overly stressed and exhausted with all of that. And then where's your motivation? It's like, so then you don't show up. But yeah, so to be able to put the worry or the overexcitement aside so that you can just make the decision and show up and go. Anyway, it's just all about the energy behind it.
It is. No, you're so right. Thank you for that. Good. Tom.
This is a showing up story. Derek was in high school. He was a senior, and he had gone to prom, and he had gotten home at about 5 in the morning, and he was exhausted and went to bed. And at 11 o'clock, I reminded him that he had a recital with Susan here at 2. And he said, oh, possibly. Oh, no, I can't. I'm too tired. I can't do it. And I said, no problem. Just call Susan. About 2 minutes later, he was in the shower.
That's great. Tom, thank you so much. That's lovely. Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you engaging with this. Really important. Thank you very much for that.